You're right, guys. Welcome to latest episode of Muscle Owl Talks. It's election time in the US, and we've been talking a lot about it on Muscle Owl, and we thought we'd delve into it. And, well, Steve, you're from the States yourself. You've got an insider's perspective. Michaela and Zoe, you both know a lot about the situations. What do we think of it at the moment? The whole Clinton-Trump stuff seems to be overshadowing the real policies and everything else. Where does the road ahead lead for disability rights? Something that I've not seen mentioned at all in this whole run-up to the election, apart from a bit where Donald Trump apparently mocked a disabled reporter, and everyone talks about that. So, yeah, I don't know. Michaela, what's your view on the whole situation?
It's a bit jumbled mess. I don't think I've seen the elections were complex and make it so many turns in my 26 years. I mean, I've seen some of them being from Northern Ireland. I've seen the whole meltdown of one political party in the middle of an election, so I've seen quite a bit. And what strikes me with this election is the real virality of it. There's so much in it that has spread it far and wide. And it's not everybody talking about politics, if nothing else. But I think we're at a key point now where it needs to knuckle down and people need to make their decisions in America. And a couple of million already have, and they've gone to the polls and cast their early votes. So in a sense, we're already kind of rumbling through this. I think it will be a landslide, one way or the other. I don't think it will be close. And I remember when Barack Obama was on it last time and everyone said it would be really close. And I remember Bob Dylan, of all people, got up and said, don't listen to them, it won't be close. And he was right, it was somewhat of a landslide in terms of the Electoral College. And that's what sets everything apart. And I've been watching kind of what's going on in some of the swing states and some of the hardline Republican states. There appears to be a real influx of registration of minority voters. We don't really know how many of them are disabled voters. We do know that there's a lot of ethnic minorities coming out to vote, and that could shape things. But in terms of policy, I've seen the odd mention of disability, and the biggest one that I saw, other than Donald Trump coming out and saying that can't impersonate a disabled reporter, was Hillary Clinton's advert, which basically went through the life of a young girl who was deaf and how policies that Hillary Clinton brought forward made it possible for her to be able to live within the hearing deaf community the way I do. I don't know how much offence that might have caused, believe it or not, that would among some people within the deaf community. A lot of us want to live deaf. For me, I'd like to be able to communicate with people who are unable to speak, and she was able to do both. But I think that's the biggest mention I've seen of disability in the race. I think Hillary Clinton's one not disputing that disabled voters could make a big change for her. And I don't know what way it's going to swing in Tuesday night, but I expect a landslide one way or the other.
I guess, I mean, as you say, like with this election, as I think with all US elections, the personalities of the individual candidates are what have really dominated the public attention. And it's very difficult, I think, a lot of the time to dig down into what their policies actually are. If you watch the presidential debates, there's not a huge amount of discussion actually about what the candidates are standing for, what they plan to do and how they plan to go about it, and much more just kind of, I guess, general mudslinging about each other's flaws. So in terms of disability not really being talked about, I think it's a fair point, but actually a lot of policy hasn't really been talked about at all. I know if you go onto the individual candidates' websites, and they do have some bits and pieces on there, Trump seems to be focusing entirely on veterans as disability, people with disabilities, whereas obviously we know that's not the case. There are many people in America who have disabilities not caused by fighting in the armed forces. But that's kind of pretty, I guess, what you might expect from someone like Trump, who focuses a lot of his attention on the armed forces and how they affect ordinary Americans. Whereas Clinton seems to have a much more holistic view of disability, so it includes physical and she has very good, more clear ideas about mental health plans, special education, and obviously has more of a background in disability. She did a bit of a stint as a disability rights lawyer as well before she got into politics. So based on that, I guess you would assume that Clinton's policies on disability are coming from perhaps more of a place of knowledge and understanding, and they certainly seem more fleshed out. But then again, Obama had a lot of policies that he talked about before he got into government that he hasn't been able to implement or hasn't tried to implement. So it's a really hard one to call. You just don't really know actually which candidate is going to be better. Or, Clinton talks a good talk, but I'd be very surprised if she's actually able to do everything that she says she wants to do. And at the same time, Trump hasn't said very much about disability at all. You've got that kind of thing where, he did, he was accused of mocking a disabled reporter, and he hasn't seemed to really talk much about that or apologize for it or anything. So I don't know. I mean, it seems sensible to assume that Clinton, with her background and the fact that she has laid out the policies up front, and they do seem to be at least matching the status quo, if not improving upon it, she as president would be better for disabled people. But Trump's a bit of he's a bit of an unknown. You don't know what he's going to say from one day to the next. So who knows if he did actually become president, whether he would have some sensible policies on disability. It's impossible to tell, really.
Yeah. From my perspective, it does seem like policy-wise, there's some serious issues. Like you say, they don't seem to talk about policy whatsoever. And for me, in an election, when you're going for president, you shouldn't be, or when you're going for the leader of a country, you shouldn't be about who has the most bravado. It should be about who is most equipped to look after some of the most vulnerable people in society. That should be the best candidates.
Yeah, I went on both candidates' websites just to see what they have to say about, their policies for people with disabilities. There's nothing on Trump's website. And on Hillary's website, if you click on issues, her second one is disability rights. And she also has policy for Alzheimer's disease, autism, and mental health. So she's got all of her bases covered. In terms of policy, this country doesn't care about policy. And the thing that is scaring me the most, and it should scare everyone, is the sheer amount of misinformation that's being spread. And what's even scarier is that everyone is believing it. I shouldn't say everyone, because obviously it's not everyone, but the vast majority of Trump supporters are believing the most outlandish and absurd things that I've probably ever heard in my entire life. And, it's come to a point where Trump supporters think that Hillary Clinton's email is like the biggest scandal ever. It's now bigger than Watergate. But listen, you have Trump, who is going on trial next month for the rape of a 13-year-old. The guy who told a 14-year-old girl that he'll be dating her in 10 years. And, I understand everyone has their party affiliations, but no one is objective anymore. People are just blindly following Trump and anything that he says. And it's making my anxiety go through the roof, because I don't believe the polls. I've never believed polls. And he has a chance of winning. And even if he doesn't win, the bar has been set so low now, where, back in 2012, just 4 years ago, everybody thought Mitt Romney was like the worst thing to come out of the Republican Party. And he, now Trump makes Mitt Romney look like Abraham Lincoln. And it's not good.
How do you think this situation has arisen? How do you think we've gotten to the state that we're in now?
I really wish I knew.
Because part of it for me, I do want to put part of it on the Democrats, Barack Obama. Even though I consider myself a Democrat, part of me wants to say, well, all the people who wanted hope and change, they sort of didn't get it. There sort of wasn't enough done. And not that I'm saying they're right to all jump ship and go wild crazy, but...
Here's the thing. Racism and sexism is alive and well. When everyone thought it was dead, it wasn't. They were just hiding. It was just dormant. People were against Obama before he even took office. He does not get the credit that he deserves, and I hope that history is kind to him. Because our unemployment rate is under 5%. We've had consistent job growth. The economy is growing. Everything that the other side wanted, we got. But because it was a black man in America, they don't recognize it or they don't accept it. And now we have a woman running. And just, this last week or 2 weeks ago, John McCain said that no matter who she nominates for the Supreme Court, they're going to block it. Before the election is even decided, they're coming out against her. So, this gridlock is coming out from pettiness, and nothing can be done. Nothing can get done. There can't be any common ground because the right has gone so far to the right where any common ground is not really a compromise.
In terms of Donald Trump, the Republican Party, and things like care plans, things like how he'd run hospitals, in terms of free healthcare, things like that, do you think there's any credence to what he says about Obamacare, about getting rid of that? And why do you think it appeals to so many people?
Well, it appeals to people because, there's a thing about the people in this country, and it's probably people in general, but the vast majority of the people in this country, they only hear what they want to hear. So they constantly listen to the same people. They read the same news sources, and they don't learn. So they hear Obamacare is a job killer. It's not. There are facts that prove it's not. But facts don't matter because it goes against what they believe. And another thing is that people in America really vote against their own interests. But you'll see how the most conservative states in this country are the poorest. So you hear these people say, yeah, let's get rid of Obamacare. People don't remember what it was like before, where you could have cancer but not get chemotherapy because you already have cancer.
But there is an argument, isn't there, that Obamacare doesn't work for everyone in the way that it should.
Right, but that's not Obama's fault. That's not the president's fault.
It's a severely limited version of the act that I think he wanted, and certainly that a lot of American people wanted. So
exactly. He wanted the public option.
It in place of something better, although I don't think Trump's necessarily going to put something better in, but it's not this kind of, you talk about people not seeing the benefits of Obamacare, but some people genuinely aren't seeing the benefits of Obamacare. What they're seeing is something that's costing the government a lot of money and is not benefiting them actually in any way. They're not able to access it, or they don't qualify to use it, and all of those things. So it's not quite as black and white as just people read conservative media and therefore they hate Obamacare. For some people, it genuinely isn't working, and I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to scrutinize it. Obviously, Trump seems to be suggesting that he's just going to repeal the whole thing and not think about it anymore, whereas actually someone should go back in and look at it and say, okay, it's been in place for some time now. Is it actually working? Is it actually giving people what they need? And are we actually, is it economically viable? Is it sustainable? All of those things need to be taken into account.
Right. Okay. I said that's good. But let's look deeper. So, like I said before, even before Obama took office, people were against him. So when the Affordable Care Act was passed, people flipped out because they said it was going to lead to death panels and socialism, which is why we did not get the public option. Now, the reason why insurance premiums are going up is because the insurance companies they have too much say in this. And that's what Obama feared. He didn't want that to happen. Now, the other thing was that the Affordable Care Act was presented in front of the Supreme Court because states did not want to create the individual exchanges. So the Affordable Care Act was deemed constitutional. However, the Medicaid part of it was not, and it was eventually left up to the states. And all the states that did not expand Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act were states with Republican governors who simply wanted to spite Obama. So now you're getting these people stuck in limbo who are too poor to afford it, but they're not poor enough to get health care through the state. So when Hillary Clinton says she wants to expand it, that's what she means. She wants to expand it so those people who are stuck in limbo can get the health care that they need. But Trump has no plan. He says, I'm going to repeal it and replace it with, quote, something terrific. And people think, great, no need to worry, it's all figured out. Spoiler alert, it's not figured out.
This is part of my view of America, the what I see from an outsider's perspective, is that is there a problem not just with America but with maybe our modern society in general? A problem with idealism, a problem that we have this dream that everything really can be golden if we do things in a certain way. And for me right now, it seems that with Obamacare and things like Medicaid and everything else, it's sort of like middle. It's sort of like it could be a heck of a lot better, but it's better than nothing. It's certainly a lot better than things that have been before. But it's kind of this situation where it stays at this for so long that someone comes along and says, hey guys, let's do this, that everyone's like, yeah, actually it's either this idea of something better that might not ever materialize, or it's a definite stick with something that seems quite mediocre. Is that a problem? Is it a problem of the way we look at things?
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, just look at Trump's slogan, make America great again. And then you always hear people on the right say, we need to take our country back. What is that? What does that even mean? Well, it means taking it back to have a white president. People in this country are just not mature enough to respect a black man as president. That's it. And now it's going to show that people in this country are not mature enough to have respect for a female president.
Possibly. In something that we mentioned in our Brexit episode that always stays with me, something Zoe said, which was, we're always blaming immigrants. And if we get rid of the immigrants, I'm concerned. If we get rid of immigrants and things don't get better, who are we going to blame? And Zoe said, I'm waiting for them to blame me. Do you think that, in terms of people with disabilities or people who, need government help or assistance, do you worry that they could be next to be blamed if America does get rid of its immigrants, or its Muslims or the Mexicans? As someone with disability in America, do you ever feel marginalized?
Yeah, of course. I mean, people say, oh, you're on welfare, I want to get a job. Well, I have a job, actually. I do work. I do work a paycheck. But the system is just not set up in a way where I can work enough. My Social Security is just not enough to live off of. And people are just too ignorant to realize that if we were to expand Social Security and Medicaid and food stamps, all these government assistance programs, taxes would go down because it would help people to get more of it, the Head Start that they need. And the big thing that correlates with that is that we have to raise the minimum wage, because there are people in this country who work a full-time job and live in poverty. And because of that, they have to go on government assistance. If you look at how much money this country gives to Walmart every year, but they pay their workers nothing. If Walmart were to just pay their workers a living wage, taxes would go down because we would not have to pay as much money into government assistance. It's simple math. It's facts, numbers. But people don't get it because it's not what they hear.
In terms of,
Oh, and again, that goes back to 2012 with Mitt Romney's famous line, 47% of people in this country are takers, which means people on welfare. Well, let's look at the majority of senior citizens of this country who receive Medicare and Social Security. But again, people, you don't want to hear that.
Well, when this episode's out on the Tuesday, we'll be just a day away from finding out who is president.
Yeah, I'll be popping Xanaxes left and right.
I know a lot of people on my Facebook feed who have a disability and are in the States and are voting for Donald Trump. What would you say, kind of in conclusion? Zoe, you looked shocked then. Steve, what would you say in conclusion to those people, or what would what's your review of the situation? Do you understand why people with a disability might be voting for Donald Trump or might be voting for Republican?
No.
Is there a way forward, or do you think things will get worse before they get better?
Oh, they get much worse. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but you get people in this country who say, they're getting ready to march on Washington with their guns cocked. It's frightening. It really is. And, now you have, the FBI getting involved in this election. And people should be more scared about that. Yeah, I mean, no matter what happens, it's going to get worse. Absolutely. People in this country are obsessed with guns, and they're not afraid to use them for what they believe in. I mean, honestly, I'm trying to prepare for the worst, and, I would not be surprised if we see the Second American Civil War.
Well, Steve, that's.
I mean, I don't mean to get dark.
No.
And depressing, but it's bad.
No, I can certainly see it from an outsider's perspective. I can see a lot of hatred in the UK too, and a lot of not necessarily hatred, but discontent, and a lot of
you guys don't have
sides of vulnerable people turning on each other.
Right, but you guys don't have guns.
Well, that's the thing too, yeah. But it really does concern me as to the way ahead. So I think, we as a community on Muscle are going to try and do as much as we can to analyse situations and hopefully better interpret them, to better understand them, and better share them with the community, because I think that's all we really can do for the time being. I don't know. Michaela, Zoe, your final thoughts, final views?
I mean, I know I pulled a face when you talked about people with disabilities voting for Trump. I do think there's a genuine sentiment among a lot of Trump voters that any alternative to the establishment is good. I think, Americans with disabilities haven't exactly been particularly well supported by previous governments. They haven't exactly had the best of times. And I do think that some people genuinely feel that actually it's a risk, but it might pay off to have somebody who's come from outside of the political sphere and to have somebody who has a very different approach to politics, whether you agree with that approach or not. I mean, I do not, but I kind of see where people are coming from in terms of, and it's exactly the same thing as we saw with the EU referendum. People are fed up of an establishment that doesn't represent them, that doesn't understand them, and that kind of churning out the same sort of politicians from and particularly in America from the same dynasties, and with when there's such a lot of nepotism and interconnectivity in the people who are in power, but having someone who can come from outside of that and offer something different, you can kind of see why people might go for that, even if it is an example of voting against their own interests, which I believe for a lot of people a vote for Donald Trump would be. So I'm certainly not saying you should go out and vote for Trump, but I have found a lot of the discourse around the US election very, very polarizing, quite nasty sometimes, very kind of character based, and that is, I think, part of what is leading to this feeling that Steve's picking up of people kind of getting ready to form militias and getting ready to march on government and things, because people have been whipped up into such a frenzy. They've been kind of fed all this stuff where they, the two sides just see each other as enemies. They're completely incompatible. There's no common ground. When you create an environment like that, it's going to be unhealthy, whatever the result is. I think it's a really poor way to conduct political discussion, and I don't think it helps anyone. And so, whatever side you're on, I don't think the election's going to go very well for either side particularly. I don't think it's going to be good for America with either of these individuals getting in, given the current climate that we find ourselves in. It just seems like a thoroughly unpleasant situation.
Michaela, final word?
It's just so much of this just sounds like history over and over again. I'm from a country where my childhood was, I remember army being like in the streets with guns. So thankfully that wasn't much of my childhood. So I very, very vaguely remember the 1998 agreement and things starting to settle down in Northern Ireland. And politics here now is becoming more policy based. But the first time I voted when I was 18, it wasn't policy based really at all. It was very much personality. Yes, there was certain parts of policy starting to break through. So I've seen both types of election and I've voted in them myself. So I know how difficult it is to get through that as a citizen, to say, okay, these are my choices and these are the votes I'm going to make, and I make very conscious decisions to vote across the divide in Northern Ireland because I believe that we have a variety of people to cater for, and different people represent different parts of my ideology. But I think when it comes to American people need to remember on Tuesday that they are voting for a future, not for them, but for people further on down the line. And I agree, I don't think this is going to end on Tuesday night or Wednesday morning. I think it's going to be years from now that America recovers from what has been a really turbulent year for them. And I think more than anything, I remember being in Clearwater and walking down the street, and on one side of the street, there was people living in these really extravagant houses, and they had boats like hand them out like they were money. And at the same time, there was a homeless man who would tell me some sort of wisdom every day. And it's so polarized, and I think there is common ground to be had. It's that Americans themselves, not the political establishment, need to find that common ground with one another so that they can move forward and make the best of a bad situation. But yeah, I think Tuesday will be interesting, and I still believe that it will be a shocking landslide for one way or the other. I don't think anyone will expect what might happen.
We'll see. I think it's definitely one where people have, and we all have to start voting and acting with our head as well as our heart. Zoe, Michaela, Steve, thank you so much.
May I just say?
Yes.
I love you all very much. Please remember me for who I am. Because I probably won't make it out alive.
See, if you make it out alive... Sorry?
What?
I was just saying, let us know what he wants in his headstone so we can make
Steve, if you do make it out alive, let's do a review of things when everything has settled down, and we'll try and pave a good way forward for
all right, I'm down for that.
And don't forget, we've got the House and the Senate to vote for as well, so it's all happening.
Oh, don't even
president. No, neither do I, because I had enough like 2 years ago, but we've got enough to come to. So, I mean, we've got a balance of powers to see. Let's see what way the House is balanced, whether they're Democratic or Republican, and see what way the president goes, and we'll assess him there. Steve will be driving now. Yeah, we have to.
Steve, we'll be thinking about you.
I appreciate that.
We'll speak to you all again soon. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.